I've cried harder than any man has ever cried or should be able to cry. And my wife was there to support me to where I could just put my head on her shoulder.
The events depicted in this video are based on real incidents. The script has been created for educational and entertainment purposes only. The safety of passengers and crew members is of the utmost importance.
Five, four, three, two, one.
It was an early morning on August 27, 2006, when Comair Flight 5191 was scheduled to take off from Bluegrass Airport in Lexington, Kentucky. Little did the passengers and crew know that this routine flight would end in tragedy. The aircraft involved, a Bombardier CRJ-100ER registered as N431CA, was just over 5.5 years old. With 47 passengers and 3 crew members on board, it was a standard regional flight operating under the Delta Connection brand. As the aircraft taxied towards the runway, it was cleared to depart from Runway 22, a standard asphalt-paved strip. However, due to a change in the taxi route following a repaving project, the crew mistakenly lined up for takeoff on Runway 26, a much shorter and unlit runway. The change in the taxi route and the lack of visual guidance from the air traffic controller contributed to the crew's mistake. They didn't realize they were on the wrong runway until it was too late. Despite the lack of lighting and their unease, the crew proceeded with the takeoff. With insufficient distance to become airborne, the aircraft careened off the end of the runway, crashing into a wall, the perimeter fence, and a wooded area. The crash resulted in the tragic deaths of all but one person on board. First Officer James Polhinka, despite sustaining severe injuries, miraculously survived. However, the crash left him with brain damage, unable to remember the events leading up to the accident. It was a horrifying experience. I remember the impact and the chaos that followed. It's something that will stay with me forever.
I've cried harder than any man has ever cried or should be able to cry. And my wife was there to support me to where I could just put my head on her shoulder.
The National Transportation Safety Board conducted a thorough investigation and determined that pilot error was the probable cause of the crash. The pilot's failure to use available cues and aids to identify their location on the airport surface and their failure to cross-check and verify the correct runway were significant contributing factors to the crash. In the wake of the tragedy, Bluegrass Airport made changes to prevent similar incidents. Runway 26 was replaced with a separate strip, designated as Runway 27. During a public meeting on July 26, 2007, the NTSB announced the probable cause of the accident. The National Transportation Safety Board determines that the probable cause of this accident was the flight crew members' failure to use available cues and aids to identify the airplane's location on the airport surface during taxi, and their failure to cross-check and verify that the airplane was on the correct runway before takeoff. Contributing to the accident were the flight crew's non-pertinent conversations during taxi, which resulted in a loss of positional awareness and the Federal Aviation Administration's failure to require that all runway crossings be authorized only by specific air traffic control clearances. NTSB investigators concluded that the likely cause of the crash was that Clay and Polhinka ignored clues that they were on the wrong runway, failed to confirm their position on the runway, and engaged in too much conversation not pertinent to the flight in violation of sterile cockpit procedures. Captain Clay's widow strongly disputes laying primary blame on the pilots, stating that other factors contributed, including an understaffed control tower and an inaccurate runway map. We also want to share the stories of people related to the flight. Fun fact, my dad almost took this plane, but instead he decided to do the Louisville airport instead. It saved his life too. If you haven't seen any footage of a full video, they took off on the wrong runway. Plus, they didn't follow the sterile cockpit rule. Rip to all who perished. 3. My middle school math teacher lost her husband on this flight. It still has a massive impact on the local community. 4. I'm from Lexington. Woke up late that morning, I think it was a Saturday or Sunday, and I heard my girlfriend say, "There's a jet crash at Bluegrass Airport." Walked into the room, saw the major breaking news coverage on all the major networks, and saw on the screen Comair 5191 Lex to ATL, and my heart sunk. My sister uses the early bird connection to Atlanta frequently cause she traveled all the time. Grabbed my phone, called her immediately, and thank God she answered. She knew exactly why I was calling, and she answered, and first thing out of her mouth was, "This is my off weekend. I am home and safe and didn't travel." But she has flown that 6 a.m. Comair to Atlanta many of times. The TV screen had a live shot from a helicopter and smoke was still bellowing up into the sky, AF 10:30 a.m. Passengers burned to death, just horrible. Lexington was devastated over those 49 lost souls. So many young adults in their 20s and 30s. A newlywed couple was on their way to their honeymoon to connect to Atlanta to go to the Caribbean. I worked at Comair at CVG as a ramp agent from October 11, 1999 to December 19, 2003. Employee number 15472. I missed that job, the people, the pilots and flight attendants, the winter decise ops, and the free flight benefits. 5191 was a deep tragedy for all of Comair and the aviation community as a whole. Anytime an aircraft has lost its heart across the country. The pilot is totally innocent. He doesn't remember the crash at all. He suffers greatly already. He isn't even the same person. Just let the guy alone, people. I am not related, nor do I know him. He has paid enough. Stop accusing. I hope the guy finds some happiness in his life. God bless him. Join us next time on Air Crash Chronicles as we delve into another gripping air disaster, uncovering the truth behind the tragedies that shape the skies. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button to stay updated on all our latest investigations. Until next time, fly safe.